So this video is a bit of a special, a 500 subscriber special, and I guess it's also doubles as my voice reveals, but I don't think anyone cares. If I sound tired, it's probably because I'm recording this at 3 a.m. and I'm super tired, but let's go through it. So in this video, I'm just going to go through all the country names in HOI4 and their ideological counterparts. So I guess we'll go in alphabetical order, and this is like all countries and like releasable nations. It's not really any of the formable nations. I'll do that for another part, I guess, but yeah, we'll just go for it. Oh yeah, and I might get some of the pronunciations wrong for a lot of these, and also a lot of the flags and names might be like not up to date. They might not be. Sometimes the wiki's not up to date with current like flags and names, so I'm not sure how it's gonna go, but yeah, let's get started. So to start with, Abkhazia, fascist, it's the Orthodox state of Abkhazia. Democratic, it's just Abkhazia. Neutral, it's the Abkhaz military authority. Communist, it's the Abkhaz independent commune. Afghanistan, so fascist, it's the new Afghan empire. Democratic, it's the Republic of Afghanistan. And neutral, it's Afghanistan. When communist, it's Democratic Republic of Afghanistan. Alright, next is Al-Andalus. So fascist is the Caliphate of Cordoba. Democratic, it's the Islamic Republic of Al-Andalus. Neutral, it's Al-Andalus. Communist, it's the People's Republic of Andalusia. Next is Albania. Fascist is Greater Albania. Democratic Republic of Albania. Neutral, it's just Albania. Communist is the Socialist Republic of Albania. Next up is Algeria. Fascist is Algerian Caliphate. Democratic is the Republic of Algeria. When's neutral, just Algeria. And when's communist, it's the Commune of Algeria. Next is Altai. So when fascist, it's a new Genghisid empire of Altaians and Oirats. When democratic, it's Altai. When neutral, it's the Confederated Republic of Altai. And when communist, it's the Oirat Soviet Republic. Alright, next up Angola. When fascist, it's the Angolan Empire. When democratic, it's the Republic of Angola. When neutral, it's just Angola. And when communist, it's Democratic People's Republic of Angola. So next up is Argentina. When fascist, it's the Argentine League. When democratic, it's the Argentine Republic. When neutral, it's just Argentina. When communist, it's Argentina Populares. And now you may begin to notice that I cannot pronounce some of these names correctly. However, you're just gonna have to deal with it. Next up, Armenia. Fascist is Greater Armenia. Democratic is Republic of Armenia. Neutral is the Armenian Independent Territories. Communist is the Armenian Socialist Republic. Next is Ossa. I don't know how to pronounce this one, but you know, it's the one that's like right next to Ethiopia or whatever. So fascist is the Empire of the Sands. Democratic is the Afar Republic. Neutral to the Sultanate of Ossa. And when communist, it's the Revolutionary Democratic Union of Afar. So next up, Australia. And this is when it's like independent, by the way. So when fascist, it's Centralist Australia. When democratic, it's just Australia. When neutral, it's the Emu Empire. When communist, it's the Australian People's Republic. So next up is Austria. When it's fascist, it's Deutsche Sozialen Austria. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Democratic is the Republic of Austria. When neutral, it's just Austria. And when communist, it's the Austrian Soviet Republic. Next up is Azerbaijan. When it's fascist, it's the Empire of Fire. Like, what the? That's a cool ass name. But democratic is the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic. Neutral is the Islamic Republic of Azerbaijan. And communist is the Azerbaijan Socialist Republic. Next up is Bahamas. When fascist, it's the Bahamas Unitary State. When it's democratic, it's the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. When it's neutral, it's just Bahamas. And when communist, it's the Bahamian Commune. Next up is Bangladesh. When fascist, it's the state of Bengal. When democratic, it's Bangladesh. When it's neutral, it's the Sultanate of Bangladesh. When it's communist, it's the Bengal People's Republic. Next up, Bashkortostan. I have no idea what that is. Fascist is Greater Bashkiria. When it's democratic, it's Bashkortostan. When neutral, it's the independent Ufa Governorate. Governorate, I don't know. Next, communist is the Bashkirian Commune. Next up is the Basque Country. When fascist, it's Vasconia. When it's democratic, it's just the Basque Country. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Navarra. When communist, it's Socialist Euskal Herria. Next up is Kingdom of Bavaria. When fascist, it's think this is how you pronounce it. Grossbayern. I don't know how to do the funny German B. So democratic, it's a Bavarian free state. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Bavaria. When communist, it's a Bavarian Soviet Republic. Next up is Belarus. When it's fascist, it's a nationalist Belarus. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Belarus. When it's neutral, it's just Belarus. When it's communist, it's the Belarusian Socialist Republic. Now Belgium. Fascist is Rexist Belgium. Democratic is just Belgium. When it's neutral, it's Leopoldian Belgium. When it's communist, it's the Cooperative of Belgium. And next up, Belize, or Belize. I don't know how to pronounce this one either. Fascist is the state of Belize. When it's democratic, it's Belize. When it's neutral, it's the Republic of Belize. When it's communist, it's the Popular Union of Belize. Alright, next up is the Benishangul Gumuz Nation. I don't know what any of that means, but let's get started. Fascist, it's going to be Fungistan. Democratic, it's Benishangul Gumuz Republic. Neutral, it's the Benishangul Gumuz Nation. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Socialist Union of Funj and Gumuz Peoples. Next up, Bhutan. When it's fascist, it's the Thunder Dragon Empire. That's badass, I don't care what you say. Democratic is the Bhutanese Republic. When neutral, it's just Bhutan. When it's communist, it's the Union of Red Dragons. I don't know why Bhutan has such cool names, but here we are. Next up is Bolivia. So when it's fascist, it's going to be Falangist Bolivia. When it's democratic, it's going to be Plurinational Bolivia. When it's neutral, just Bolivia. And when it's communist, it's Bolivia Izquierdista. I don't know what that means, again. Next up, Bosnia-Herzegovina. So fascist is going to be the Bosnian-Herzegovinian Defense Cooperative. When it's democratic, it's Bosnia-Herzegovina. When it's neutral, it's just Bosnia. When it's communist, it's the Socialist Republic of Bosnia. Next up is Botswana. When it's fascist, it's going to be Greater Botswana. When democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Botswana. When it's neutral, it's going to be just Botswana. When it's communist, it's going to be the Union of the Botswana People. Next up is Brazil. When it's fascist, it's going to be Integralist Brazil. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Second Brazilian Republic. When it's neutral, it's just Brazil. When it's communist, it's the Brazilian Socialist Republic. Next up is the British Antilles. So when it's fascist, it's the Liberated States of the British West Indies. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of the British Antilles. When it's neutral, it's going to be the British Antillean Federation. When it's communist, it's going to be the British Antillean Commune. So next up is British Malaya when it's independent. So when it's fascist, it's going to be Malaysia. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Malaysia. When it's neutral, it's also going to be the Republic of Malaysia. When it's communist, it's going to be the Malay People's Republic. Next up is the British Raj when independent. So when it's fascist, it's going to be Free India. When it's democratic, it's just going to be India. Neutral is also just India. When it's communist, it's going to be the Indian People's Republic. Next up, Brittany. When it's fascist, it's going to be the National Republic of Brittany. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Breton Free Republic. When it's neutral, it's going to be Brittany. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Socialist State of Brittany. So next is Bukhara, or Bukhara. I don't know how to pronounce this one. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Bukharan Sufist state. I don't know how to pronounce that one. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Bukharan Jadidist Republic. I also don't know how to say that one. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Emirate of Bukhara. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Bukharan People's Republic. So next up is Bulgaria. When it's fascist, it's going to be Legionaris Bulgaria. When it's democratic, it's going to be Bulgaria. When it's neutral, it's also Bulgaria. When it's communist, it's the Socialist Republic of Bulgaria. So next up is Burma. When it's fascist, it's the state of Burma. When democratic, it's Burma. When neutral, it's Myanmar. And then when it's communist, it's going to be the Socialist Republic of the Union of Burma. So next up is Burundi. When it's fascist, it's the Empire of Burundi. When democratic, it's just Burundi. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Kingdom of Burundi. When it's communist, it's the Democratic People's Republic of Burundi. Next up is Buryatia. I don't know how to say this one either. When it's fascist, it's the Great Buryat Mongol Yuan successor state. Democratic, it's going to be Republic of Buryatia. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Dharmatic Kingdom of Buryatia. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Buryat Mongol People's Union. Next up, Cambodia. Fascist is going to be Imperial Khmer. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Cambodia. When it's neutral, it's also going to be the Republic of Cambodia. And then when it's communist, it's going to be the People's Republic of Kampuchea. So next up is Cameroon. When it's fascist, it's going to be Nationalist Cameroon. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Cameroon. When it's neutral, it's just Cameroon. When it's communist, it's going to be the Socialist Federation of Cameroon. Next up is Canada. When fascist, it's going to be Unitary Canada. When democratic, it's just going to be Canada. When neutral, it's going to be the Free Canadian Republic. When communist, it's going to be the Canada Popular State. So next up is Catalonia. When fascist, it's going to be a Catalan state. When democratic, it's going to be a Catalonian Free Republic. When neutral, it's just Catalonia. When communist, it's going to be the Communion of Catalans. So next up, Cayenne. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. When fascist, it's going to be the Cayenne Unitary State. When democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Cayenne. When it's neutral, it's also just going to be Cayenne. When it's communist, it's going to be the Socialist Republic of French Guiana. And next up, Central African Republic. Fascist, it's going to be the Central African Unitary State. When democratic, it's going to be the Central African Federation. When neutral, it's going to be the Central African Republic. When communist, it's going to be the Commune of Central Africa. Next up is Chad. When fascist, it's going to be the Pan-Sahelian Empire. When democratic, it's a Republic of Chad. When neutral, it's just Chad. When it's communist, it's going to be the Democratic People's Republic of Chad. Alright, next up is the Chechen Ingush Republic. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Caucasian Emirates. When democratic, it's going to be the Chechen Ingush Republic. When it's neutral, it's going to be Chechnya Ingushetia. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Chechen Ingush People's Republic. Chile. When it's fascist, it's going to be Vanguard Chile. When it's democratic, it's just Chile. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Atacama Patagonian Free State. When it's communist, it's going to be the Chilean Socialist Republic. Next up is China. When it's fascist, it's going to be Reorganized Nationalist China. When democratic, it's going to be the Republic of China. When neutral, it's just going to be China. And then when it's communist, it's going to be the Chinese People's Republic. Next up is the Chukotka Republic. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Chukchi Nation. When democratic, it's going to be the Chukotka Republic. When neutral, it's going to be the independent Chukchi territories. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Chukotkin People's Republic. Next up is Chuvashia. When fascist, it's going to be Neo-Volga Bulgaria. When it's democratic, it's going to be Chuvashia. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Orthodox Union of Descendants of Suars and Volga Bulgarians. What the is that name? That is like, how many words? I can't count. It's like about at least 8 words, I reckon, but damn, that's a long name. When it's communist, it's going to be the Chuvash Soviet. Next up is Colombia. When fascist, it's going to be Nueva Gran Colombia. When it's democratic, it's just Colombia. When it's neutral, it's going to be Nueva Constitucion. When it's communist, it's Colombian Socialist Republic. Next up, Communist China. When fascist, it's going to be the Chinese Empire. When democratic, it's the Chinese Republic. Neutral, it's just China. Communist is Communist China. And next up is the Confederacy of American States. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Confederate States of America. Democratic, it's also going to be Confederacy of American States. Neutrals, the Confederation of America. When it's communist, it's going to be the Confederacy of American Workers. Next is Congo Brazzaville. When it's fascist, it's just going to be called the Congo. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of the Congo. When it's neutral, it's Congo Brazzaville. When it's communist, it's going to be the Democratic Republic of the West Congo. Next up is Corsica. When it's fascist, it's called Fraternal Corsica. When democratic, it's the Corsican Republic. When it's neutral, it's the Duchy of Corsica. And when communist, it's Revolutionary Corsica. Next up is Costa Rica. When it's fascist, it's Costa Potente. When it's democratic, it's Costa Rica. When it's neutral, it's Reino de la Costa. When it's communist, it's Costa del Pueblo. Next up is Côte d'Ivoire. When it's fascist, it's just the presidential dictatorship of Côte d'Ivoire. When it's democratic, it's a République de Côte d'Ivoire. Neutral, it's Côte d'Ivoire. When it's communist, it's the Ivory Commune. Next up is Crimea. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Crimean Khanate. When democratic, it's just Crimea. If it's neutral, it's the Crimean regime. When it's communist, it's going to be the Crimean People's Republic. Next up is Croatia. When it's fascist, it's the independent state of Croatia. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Croatia. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Croatia. And when it's communist, it's SR Croatia. Next up is Cuba. When it's fascist, it's going to be Phalanges Cuba. When it's democratic, it's just going to be Cuba. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Anarcho Republic of Cuba. And when it's communist, it's going to be Revolutionary Cuba. Next up is Cyprus. When it's fascist, it's the Cypriot Empire. Then democratic, it's the Republic of Cyprus. Neutral is just Cyprus. And then communist is going to be the Cypriot Democratic People's Republic. Next up, Czechoslovakia. When fascist, it's going to be called the Bohemian Empire. When democratic, it's going to be Czechoslovakia. When neutral, it's going to be called the Kingdom of Bohemia. And when communist, it's going to be called the Czechoslovak Union. Next up is Dagestan or Dagestan. I'm not sure which one it is. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Legionary Dagestani State. When democratic, it's going to be the Mountainous Republic of Dagestan. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Second North Caucasian Emirate. I didn't even know there was a first one. When it's communist, it's going to be the Dagestani People's Republic. Next up is Dahomey. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Benin Unitary Federation. When it's democratic, it's Benin. When it's neutral, it's Dahomey. When it's communist, it's the Socialist Republic of Dahomey. Next up is Dalmatia. When it's fascist, it's called the Second Dalmatian League. Again, I didn't know there was a first one. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Dalmatia. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Dalmatia. And when it's communist, it's the Dalmatian Commune. Next up is Danzig. When it's fascist, it's the Free City of Danzig. When it's democratic, it's also the Free City of Danzig. When it's neutral, it's just Danzig. And when it's communist, it's the Danzig Commune. Next up is Denmark. When it's fascist, it's the North Sea Empire. That's badass. When it's democratic, it's just Denmark. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Denmark. And when it's communist, it's the Danish Civil Union. Next up is Djibouti. When it's fascist, it's the Empire of Adal. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Djibouti. When it's neutral, just Djibouti. And when it's communist, it's the Djiboutian Socialist Republic. Next up is the Dominican Republic. When it's fascist, it's also just the Dominican Republic. When it's democratic, it's the Representative Dominican Republic. When it's neutral, it's Santo Domingo. And when it's communist, it's the Dominican People's Republic. Next up is the Dutch East Indies if they're independent. First is fascist, in which case it will be the Indonesian Order. Next is democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Indonesia. Neutral, Indonesia. Communist, People's Republic of the Malay Archipelago. Next up is Don Host, or I don't know how you say this one. When it's fascist, it's just going to be Don Host. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Don Republic. When it's neutral, it's also just the Don Republic. When it's communist, it's going to be the Don People's Republic, not to be confused with the last two. Next up is East Africa. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Italian state of East Africa. When it's democratic, it's the Italo-Ethiopian Federation. When it's neutral, it's the Italo-Ethiopian state of East Africa. And when it's communist, it's the East African Commune. East Germany is next. When it's fascist, it's going to be the DNSR. I do not know what it stands for, but someone in the comments could probably say it. When it's democratic, it's Constitutional Germany. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Prussia. And when it's communist, it's the German Democratic Republic. Next up is Ecuador. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Ecuadorian Authority. When it's democratic, it's going to be Ecuador. When it's neutral, it's the Galapagos regime. And when it's communist, it's the Equatorial Socialist Republic. Next up is Egypt. When it's fascist, it's the Imperial Kemet. When it's democratic, it's just Egypt. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Egypt. When it's communist, it's the Soviet Republic of the Nile. Next up is El Salvador. If it's fascist, it's just El Salvador. If it's democratic, it's the Republic of El Salvador. If it's neutral, it's Teocracia de El Salvador. Next is communist, in which case it will be the Central American Socialist Republic. Next up is Equatorial Guinea. When it's fascist, it's going to be Equatorial Empire of Guinea. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Equatorial Guinea. When it's neutral, it's going to be just Equatorial Guinea. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Equatorial Commune of Guinea. Next up is Eritrea. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Unitary Eritrea. When democratic, it's just Eritrea. When neutral, it's going to be the Eritrean Kingdom. When it's communist, it's going to be called the Eritrean Democratic People's Republic. Next up is Estonia. When it's fascist, it's going to be Vapsid Estonia. Democratic is going to be Republic of Estonia. When neutral, it's going to be Estonia. When communist, it's going to be the Estonian People's Republic. Next is Ethiopia. When fascist, it's going to be the Ethiopian Empire. When democratic, it's going to be the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. When neutral, it's going to be Ethiopia. When communist, it's going to be the People's Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Next up is the Far Eastern Republic. When fascist, it's going to be the East Siberian Empire. When democratic, it's going to be Far Eastern Republic. When it's neutral, it's going to be the independent state of the Far East. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Far Eastern Commune. Next up is Finland. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Greater Finland. When democratic, just the Republic of Finland. When neutral, Finland. Communist, People's Republic of Finland. Next up is France. When fascist, it's either going to be Nation Française or Vichy France. When democratic, it's going to be France or Free France. When neutral, it's going to be Bourbon France, Orléaniste France, or French Empire. Next up is communist, in which case it'll just be called the French Commune. Next up is Gabon. When fascist, it's going to be the sovereign Gabonese state. Then it's going to be called the Gabonese Republic of Democratic. If neutral, it's going to be called Gabon. When communist, it's going to be called the Gabonese Commune. Next up is Galiza or Galiza, I don't know. When fascist, it's going to be the state of Galicia. When democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Galiza. When neutral, it's just going to be Galicia. And when communist, it's going to be Socialist Galiza. Next up is Gambela. When fascist, it's going to be the Upper Nilotic National Union. When democratic, it's going to be the Gambela Federation. When neutral, it's going to be Gambela. When communist, it's going to be the Anuak Nuer People's Popular State. Next up is the Gambia. If fascist, it's going to be called Nationalist the Gambia. The democratic name is going to be the Gambia. Neutral is going to be the Islamic Republic of the Gambia. And when communist, is going to be the United Workers' State of the Gambia. Next up is Georgia. When fascist, is going to be the Caucasus.
Caucasus.
Next up is Georgia. When fascist, it's going to be the Caucasus Authority. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Georgia. When neutral, it's going to be the Free State of St. George. When communist, it's going to be the Georgian Socialist Republic. Next up is Germany. When it's fascist, it's going to be the German Reich. Democratic is going to be the German Republic or just Germany. Neutral, it's going to be the German Empire or the German military junta. When it's communist, it's going to be called the Socialist Republic of Germany. Next up is Ghana. When fascist, it's going to be called the Ghana Empire. When democratic, it's going to be called the Republic of Ghana. When neutral, it's just going to be Ghana. And then when communist, it's going to be the Socialist State of Ghana. Next up is Greece. When fascist, it's going to be the Hellenic State. When democratic, it's going to be the Hellenic Republic. When neutral, it's the Kingdom of Greece. And when it's communist, it's going to be Provisional Democratic Greece. Next up is Guadeloupe. When fascist, it's going to be the Karukera Empire. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Guadeloupe. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Guadeloupe. And when it's communist, it's going to be called the Guadeloupean Commune. Next up is the Guangxi Clique. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Third Guangxi Clique. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Guangxi Independent Republic. And when it's neutral, it's going to be called the Guangxi Clique. When it's communist, it's going to be the Socialist Republic of the Zhejiang. Next up, Guatemala. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Guatemalan Corporate State. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Guatemala. Neutral is going to be Guatemala. Communist is going to be Union Guatemala. Next up is Guinea. When fascist, it's going to be the Sovereign State of Guinea. When democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Guinea. When it's neutral, it's going to be Guinea. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Socialist Republic of Guinea-Conakry. Next up is Guinea-Bissau or Guinea-Bissau. I don't know which one it is. So when it's fascist, it's going to be dictatorial Guinea-Bissau. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Constitutional State of Guinea-Bissau. When it's communist, it's going to be Guinea-Bissau. Next up is Guyana. Fascist, it's just Great Guyana. When it's democratic, it's a Cooperative Republic of Guyana. When it's neutral, it's going to be Guyana. When it's communist, it's the Indo-Guyanese Union. Next up is Haiti. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Third Empire of Haiti. When it's democratic, it's just Haiti. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Kingdom of Haiti. And when it's communist, it's the Haiti Socialist Republic. Next up is Harar. When it's fascist, it's the Empire of Harar. When it's democratic, it's a Harari Republic. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Emirate of Harar. When it's communist, it's going to be the Harari People's Socialist Republic. Next up is Hawaii. When it's fascist, it's a Hawaiian Empire. When it's democratic, it's a Hawaiian Republic. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Hawaii. And when it's communist, it's the Great Ohana Commonwealth. Next up is Herzegovina. When it's fascist, it's the new Duchy of Saint Sava. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Herzegovina. When it's neutral, just Herzegovina. When it's communist, it's the Socialist Republic of Herzegovina. Next up is Honduras. When it's fascist, it's going to be Corporatist Honduras. When it's democratic, it's going to be Honduras. When it's neutral, it's Atlas Honduras. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Honduran Commonwealth. Next up is Hungary. When it's fascist, it's just Hungary. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Hungary. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Hungary. When it's communist, it's going to be the Hungarian People's Republic. Next up is Iceland. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Íslandsveldi. When it's democratic, it's just Iceland. When it's neutral, it's Eastland, I guess. When it's communist, it's the Workers' Republic of Iceland. Next up is Iran. When it's fascist, it's going to be the New Persian Empire. When democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Iran. When it's neutral, it's just Iran. When it's communist, it's the Iranian Communist Authority. Next up is Iraq. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Al-Muthana Iraq. When democratic, it's going to be the Iraqi Republic. When neutral, it's just Iraq. And when communist, it's going to be the Iraqi People's State. Next up is Ireland. When it's fascist, it's just going to be Resurrectionist Ireland. When democratic, it's just Ireland. When it's neutral, it's Free Ireland. When it's communist, it's the Irish People's Union. Next up is Israel. When fascist, it's going to be called Israeli Totalitariat. When democratic, it's just Israel. When neutral, it's the Free State of Jerusalem. And when it's communist, it's the Levantine Union. Or Levantine Union, I don't know. Next up is Italy. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Italy. When democratic, it's Republican Italy. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Italy. When it's communist, it's the Italian Union. Next up is Jamaica. When fascist, it's going to be called the Zymacan Empire. That I don't know how to pronounce the X at the start. Next up is democratic, so it's going to be just called Jamaica. When it's neutral, it's the Jamaican Principality. When it's communist, it's the Commune of Jamaica. Next up is Japan. When it's fascist, it's just called Japan. When it's democratic, it's the State of Japan. When it's neutral, it can either be called the Japanese Shogunate or the Empire of Japan. When it's communist, it's the Japanese People's Republic. Next up is Jordan. When it's fascist, it's the Empire of Jordan. When it's democratic, it's just Jordan. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Jordan. And when it's communist, it's Red Jordan. Next up is the Kabardins and Karachay-Balkars. I don't know if I'll be saying any of these right, by the way, so please don't call me out in the comments. So the first up is fascist, so it's going to be called the Circassian Realm. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Federal Republic of Kabardins and Karachay-Balkars. When it's neutral, it's the Kabardino-Balkarian Mountainous Republic. When it's communist, it's going to be the Kabardino-Balkar Soviet Republic. Next up is Kalmykia. When fascist, it's going to be the Great Horde. When democratic, it's just going to be Kalmykia. When neutral, it's going to be the Kalmyk Khaganate. When it's communist, it's the Kalmyk Socialist Workers Union. Alright, next up is Karakalpakstan. When it's fascist, it's going to be Karakalpak National State. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Republic of Karakalpakstan. When it's neutral, it's just Karakalpakstan. When it's communist, it's going to be called the Karakalpak Socialist Union State. You have no idea how long it took me to get through that entire section. Next up is Karelia. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Karelo-Finnic Unitary State. When it's democratic, it's going to be called Karelia. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Karelo-Finnish Military Junta. When it's communist, it's going to be the Karelian People's Republic. Next up is Kashubia. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Kashubian Free State. When democratic, it's just going to be Kashubia. And when it's neutral, it's going to be the Duchy of Pomerania Gdansk. When it's communist, it's going to be the Kashubian Commune. Next up is Kazakhstan. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Alash Orda. When democratic, it's just Kazakhstan. When it's neutral, it's going to be called the Kazakh Khanate. When it's communist, it's going to be the Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic. Next up is Kenya. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Greater Kenyan Empire. And when it's democratic, it's going to be called the Republic of Kenya. Neutral is just Kenya, and communist is the People's Republic of Kenya. Next up is Khakassia. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Neo-Yenseid Kyrgyz Khaganate. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Khakassia. When it's neutral, it's the Khaganate of the Northern Dragon. That's fucking badass. When it's communist, it's going to be called the Kyrgyz Soviet Republic. Next up is Khiva. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Basmachi State of Khiva. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Kievan Jadidis Republic. Next is going to be neutral, so when it's neutral, it's going to be called the New Kievan Khanate. When it's communist, it's going to be called the Khwarezm People's Republic. Next is the Komi Republic. So when it's fascist, it's going to be the New Permian State. When it's democratic, it's going to be Komi Republic. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Komi State. When it's communist, it's going to be Komi Socialist State. Next up is Korea. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Independent Korean Governorate. So when it's fascist, it's going to be called the Independent Korean Governorate. When it's democratic, it's just going to be Korea. When it's neutral, it's going to be the People's Republic of Korea. And when it's communist, it's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Next up is Kosovo. When it's fascist, it's just going to be called Dardania. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Republic of Kosovo. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Kosovo. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Kosovo Communist League. Next up is Kuban Host or Cuban Host. I don't know how to say this one. So when it's fascist, it's going to be the Kuban Host. When democratic, it's going to be the Kuban Republic. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Kuban Republic. And when it's communist, it's going to be a Kuban People's Republic. Next up is Kurdistan. When it's fascist, it's going to be Zoybun Kurdistan. When it's democratic, it's just Kurdistan. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Kurdistan. And when it's communist, it's the Socialist Republic of Kurdistan. Next up is Kyrgyzstan. So when it's fascist, it's going to be the Neo-Kyrgyz Khanate. When it's democratic, it's going to be Kyrgyzstan. When it's neutral, it's Kyrgyzia. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Kyrgyz Soviet Socialist Republic. Next up is Kuwait. When it's fascist, it's dictatorial Kuwait. When it's democratic, it's just Kuwait. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Kingdom of Kuwait. When it's communist, it's going to be the People's Republic of Kuwait. Next up is Laos. When it's fascist, it's going to be Unitary Laos. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Laos. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Laos. When it's communist, it's the Lao People's Democratic Republic. When it's Latvia, next up is Latvia. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Thundercross Latvia. That's a cool name. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Latvia. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Latvia. And when it's communist, it's going to be called the Latvian People's Republic. Next up is Lebanon. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Lebanon Free State. When it's democratic, it's going to be Lebanon. Neutral is just going to be Lebanon again. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Lebanese Socialist Republic. Next up is Liberia. So when it's fascist, it's going to be called the Reorganized Liberian Free State. When it's democratic, it's just going to be Liberia. When neutral, it's going to be Independent Liberia. When it's communist, it's going to be the Liberian Commune. Next up is Libya. When it's fascist, it's going to be Africa Nova. When it's democratic, it's going to be a Libyan electorate. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Kingdom of Libya. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Libyan Socialist Republic. Next up is Lithuania. When fascist, it's going to be Iron Wolf Lithuania. That's a cool ass name once again. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Lithuania. When neutral, it's going to be Lithuania. And when communist, it's going to be the Lithuanian People's Republic. Next up is Lombardy Venetia. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Most Serene Republic of Cisalpina, which is not the humblest name, but let's move on. Next, when it's democratic, it's going to be called the United Republics of Lombardy and Venetia. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Kingdom of Lombardy Venetia. And when it's communist, it's going to be called the People's United Provinces of Transpadania. Next up is Luxembourg. When it's fascist, it's just going to be called Luxembourg. Same for democratic, it's just going to be called Luxembourg. When it's neutral, it's going to be called Royalist Luxembourg. And when it's communist, it's going to be called Rosa Luxembourg. Because get it? Funny, historical fic. We're moving on. Next is Macedonia. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Greater Macedonia. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Republic of Macedonia. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Macedonia. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Macedonian People's Republic. Next up is Madagascar. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Empire of Imerina, or Imerina, I don't know. When it's democratic, it's going to be called Madagascar. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Republic of Madagascar. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Malagasy People's Republic. Next up is Malawi. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Empire of Malawi. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Malawi. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Malawi. And when it's communist, it's going to be Communist Malawi. Next up is the Maldives. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Resurgent Maldives. When it's democratic, it's just going to be the Maldives. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Sultanate of the Maldives. When it's communist, it's going to be called the Maldive Commune. Next up is Mali. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Resurgent Mali Empire. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Mali. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Mali. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Malian Socialist Worker State. Next up is Malta. When they're fascist, they're going to be called the 10th Crusade. That's actually kind of cool. When it's democratic, it's just going to be Malta. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Malta Commune. Next is Manchukuo. When it's fascist, it can either be Manchukuo, Qing China, or Imperial Kwantung Territories. When it's democratic, it's usually going to go with Manchu Republic. When it's neutral, it's Qing China. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Free People's Republic of Manchukuo. Next up is Mari El. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Realm of the Great God of Light, which is kind of badass, honestly. That's honestly my favorite name so far. I think I mentioned it in the previous video. It's actually really cool. When it's democratic, it's going to just be called Mari El. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Free Mari National Republic. When it's communist, it's going to be the Mari Independent Farmers Commune. Next up is the Mariana Federation. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Unitary Island State, which is the most generic-ass, boring name ever. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Mariana Federation. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Mariana Islands. And when it's communist, it's going to be the United Communes of Mariana. Next up is Mauritania. So when it's fascist, it's going to be the Caliphate of Mauritania. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Mauritania. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Mauritania. And when it's communist, it's going to be Revolutionary Mauritania. Next up is Mecklenburg. When it's fascist, it's going to be Gross Mecklenburg. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Free State of Mecklenburg. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Grand Duchy of Mecklenburg. And when it's communist, it's going to be the People's State of Mecklenburg. So next up is the Melanesian Federation. And when it's fascist, it's going to be called the Empire of the Seas, which is pretty cool. Like, if you haven't gathered yet, all you have to make me say for your country name to be cool is just Empire of and then blank. And then just put like fire or like sands or seas, you know, like just some simple empire things, I guess. Next up is democratic. It's just going to be called the Melanesian Federation. When it's neutral, it's just going to be called Fiji. When it's communist, it's the Pacific Workers State. Next up is Menguko. Next up is Menguko. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but we're moving on. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Menguko. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Mengjiang. When it's neutral, just Mengjiang. And when it's communist, it's the People's Mengjiang. Next up is Mexico. When it's fascist, it can either be the Mexican junta or Catholic Mexico. When it's democratic, it can either be the United Mexican States or the Republic of Mexico. When it's neutral, it's just Mexico. When it's communist, it can either be the Mexican Socialist Republic or the Mexican Soviet Republic. So next up is Micronesia. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Second Soterel Dynastic Empire. I've never even heard of like the first one. I was kind of joking for the other ones. I may have heard of the first one, but for this one, what the hell is a Soterel Dynastic Empire? Anyways, so when it's democratic, it's going to be called the Federated States of Micronesia. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Micronesia. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Greater Pohnpei Union State. Next up is Moldova. When it's fascist, it's going to be Bessarabia. When it's democratic, it's just going to be Moldova. When it's neutral, it's Moldavia. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Moldavian Socialist Republic. Next up is Mongolia. When it's fascist, it's going to be the New Mongol Empire. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Mongolian Parliamentary Republic. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Great Mongolian State. When it's communist, it's just going to be Mongolia. Next up is Montenegro. When it's fascist, it's going to be Independent Montenegro. When it's democratic, it's just going to be the Republic of Montenegro. When it's neutral, just Montenegro. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Socialist Republic of Montenegro. Next up is Morocco. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Maghreb Empire. When it's democratic, it's just going to be Morocco. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Morocco. And when it's communist, it's the Moroccan People's Republic. Next up is Mozambique. When it's fascist, it's just going to be Great Mozambique. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Mozambique. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Mozambique. And when it's communist, it's going to be the People's Republic of Mozambique. Next up is Namibia. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Namib Empire. When it's democratic, it's just going to be Namibia. When it's neutral, it's the state of Southwest Africa. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Democratic People's Republic of Namibia. Next up is Nenetsia. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Greater Nenets State. When it's democratic, it's just going to be Nenetsia. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Nenets Migratory State. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Nenets People's Republic. Next up is Nepal. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Himalayan Empire. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Federal Republic of Nepal. When it's neutral, it's just going to be Nepal. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Communist State of Nepal. Next up is Netherlands. When fascist, it's going to be called the Dutch Reich. I'm not sure. I think it just means kingdom in Dutch, so I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But next up, democratic is just going to be called Netherlands. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And when it's communist, it's going to be the People's United Provinces. Next up is the Netherlands Antilles. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Empire of the Dutch Antilles. When it's democratic, it's just going to be called the Netherlands Antilles. When it's neutral, it's the ABC Republic. When it's communist, it's going to be the Curative People's Republic. Next up is New Zealand. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Kiwi Empire. When it's democratic, it's going to be called New Zealand. When it's neutral, it's going to be called the Nova Zealandia Republic. When it's communist, it's going to be called the People's Republic of Aotearoa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but you know. Next up is Nicaragua. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Nicaraguan Junta. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Republic of Nicaragua. When it's neutral, it's going to be Nicaragua. When it's communist, it's Sandinista Nicaragua. Next up is Niger. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Niger Ascendancy. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Republic of Niger. When it's neutral, it's just going to be called Niger. And when it's communist, it's going to be called the Nigerian People's Republic. Not to be confused with the Nigerian People's Republic. Next up is Nigeria. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Nigerian Military State. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Republic of Nigeria. When it's neutral, it's just Nigeria. And when it's communist, it's the Socialist Nigerian Federation. Next up is Northern Ireland. When it's fascist, it's going to be Ulster Nation. When it's democratic, it's going to be Northern Ireland. When it's neutral, it's just Ulster. And when it's communist, it's going to be called the Commune in the north of Ireland. Next up is North Ossetia Alania. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Kingdom of Alania. When it's democratic, it's going to be North Ossetia Alania. When it's neutral, it's going to be the North Ossetian Patriarchy. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Alanian People's Republic. Next up is Norway. So when it's fascist, it's going to be called Norgesveldet, I guess. When it's democratic, it's going to be Norway. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Kingdom of Norway. When it's communist, it's going to be the Norwegian People's Republic. Next up is Occitania. When it's fascist, it's going to be Imperialist Occitania. When it's democratic, it's just Occitania. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Aquitaine. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Workers' Commune of Occitania. Next up is Oman. When fascist, it's going to be the Omani Empire. When democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Oman. When neutral, it's just going to be Oman. And when communist, it's going to be the People's Republic of Oman. Next up is Oromia. When fascist, it's going to be the Greater Oromo Territories. When democratic, it's going to be the Oromo Republic. When neutral, it's going to be Oromia. And when communist, it's going to be the Democratic Republic of Oromia. Next up is Otiak Vogul. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Khanate of Sibir. When democratic, it's going to be the Otiak Vogul National Republic. When neutral, it's going to be the Ob-Ugric or Ugric state. I'm not sure which one. When it's communist, it's going to be the Ostiak Vogul Soviet Republic. Next up is Pakistan. When fascist, it's going to be called the New Mughal Empire. When democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Pakistan. When neutral, it's just Pakistan. And when communist, it's going to be the People's Republic of Pakistan. Next up is Palestine. When fascist, it's going to be Jun Palestine, I believe. When it's democratic, it's going to be Palestine. When it's neutral, it's going to be the Free Mandate of Palestine. And when it's communist, it's going to be People's Socialist Palestine. Next up is Panama. When it's fascist, it's going to be Patriotic Communal Panama. When it's democratic, it's just going to be Panama. When it's neutral, it's Costas Hermanas. And when it's communist, it's going to be the United Communes of Panama. Next up is the Papal State, which its fascist name is the Kingdom of God. When it's democratic, it's going to be called the Roman Republic. When neutral, it's going to be the Papal State. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Roman People's Republic. Next up is Papua New Guinea. When it's fascist, it's just Papua. When it's democratic, it's Papua New Guinea. When it's neutral, it's the Federation of Papuan Peoples. And when communist, it's going to be the United Papuan Communes. Next up is Paraguay. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Provisional Republic of Paraguay. When it's democratic, it's going to be Republic of Paraguay. When neutral, it'll be Paraguay. And communist is also just Paraguay. Next up is Peru. When it's fascist, it's just going to be Peru. When it's democratic, it will be the Republic of Peru. When it's neutral, it will be the Peruvian Independent State. And when it's communist, it will be Revolutionary Peru. The Philippines. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Ganap Philippines. When democratic, it's just the Philippines. When neutral, it's the Independent Philippines. And when communist, it is the Huk Community of the Philippines. Next up is Poland. When it's fascist, it can either be called Phalangist Poland or the Bermontian Kingdom of Poland. When democratic, it's the Polish Republic. And when neutral, it can either be Poland, Senationist Poland, Kingdom of Poland, or the Congressional Kingdom of Poland. And when communist, it will be the Polish People's Republic. Next up is Portugal. When fascist, it will be called Greater Portugal. When democratic, it will be Portuguese Republic. And when neutral, it can either be Portugal, the Kingdom of Portugal, or the Anarchist Commune of Portugal. When communist, it will be Maximalist Portugal. Next up is Prussia. When it's fascist, it will be called Grosspreußen. When it's democratic, it will be the Free State of Prussia. When it's neutral, it will be the Kingdom of Prussia. And when it's communist, it will be the Democratic Republic of Prussia. Next up is Puerto Rico. When it's fascist, it will be the Viceroyalty of Borican. When it's democratic, it will be Puerto Rico. When it's neutral, it's Puerto Rico. And when it's communist, it will be the Taino Republic. Next up is Qatar. When it's fascist, it'll be the Unitary State of Qatar. When it's democratic, it'll be the Republic of Qatar. When it's neutral, it'll be Qatar. And when it's communist, it'll be the Qatari Commune. Next up is the Kemant State. When it's fascist, it will be called the Futurist Union of Kemant and Quran People. When it's democratic, it'll be called the Kwara Republic. When neutral, it'll be the Quemant State. And when communist, it'll be called the Begemder Democratic Republic of People's Unity. Next up is the Republic of the Rif. When fascist, it'll be the Empire of the Rif. When democratic, it'll be called the Republic of the Rif. When neutral, it'll also be called the Republic of the Rif. And when communist, it'll be the People's Republic of the Rif. Next up is Romania. When fascist, it's going to be the Legionary Romania. When democratic, it's just Romania. When neutral, it'll be the Kingdom of Romania. And when it's communist, it's going to be called the Romanian People's Republic. Next up is Rwanda. When it's fascist, it'll be called the Rwanda Empire. When democratic, it'll be the Republic of Rwanda. When it's neutral, it'll be Rwanda. And when it's communist, it'll be the Rwanda Commune. Next up is Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. I think I'm pronouncing that right. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Empire of the Desert. You already know how I feel about these names. When it's democratic, it'll be called the Sahrawi Republic. When it's neutral, it'll be the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. And when it's communist, it'll be the Commune of the Western Sahara. Next up is the Sakha Republic. When it's fascist, it'll be called the Greater Siberian State. When it's democratic, it'll be the Sakha Republic. When neutral, it'll be White Siberia. And when communist, it'll be Yakut People's Soviet. Next up is Samoa. When fascist, it'll be the Manaus State of Samoa. When it's democratic, it'll be called the Independent State of Samoa. When it's neutral, it'll just be Samoa. And when it's communist, it'll be called the Samoan People's Republic. Next up is Sardinia Piedmont. I think that's how you pronounce it. When it's fascist, it'll be called the Grand Duchy of Savoy. When it's democratic, it'll be called the United States of Savoy and Sardinia. When it's neutral, it'll be called Sardinia Piedmont. And when it's communist, it'll be the Cisalpine People's Federation. Next up is Saudi Arabia. When it's fascist, it will be called the Arabic Empire. When it's democratic, the Arabian Republic. When it's neutral, Saudi Arabia. And when it's communist, the Republic of the Arabian Assembly. Next up is Saxony. When fascist, it will be called Großsachsen. When democratic, they will be the Free State of Saxony. When neutral, it will be the Kingdom of Saxony. And when communist, it's going to be called the Democratic Republic of Saxony. Next up is Schleswig-Holstein. I think that's how you pronounce it. If it's fascist, it will be called Groß Schleswig. When it's democratic, it will be Schleswig-Holstein. When it's neutral, it will be the Duchy of Schleswig-Holstein. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Free People's Republic of Schleswig-Holstein. Next up is Scotland. When it's fascist, it will be called Caledonia. When democratic, it's just going to be Scotland. When neutral, it will be the Kingdom of Scotland. And when communist, it will be the Commonwealth of Alba. Next up is Senegal. When fascist, it will be the Senegal dictatorial state. When democratic, it will be Senegal. When neutral, it will be the state of Jolof or Yolof, I'm not sure which one. When it's communist, it will be the Democratic People's Republic of Senegal. Next up is Serbia. When it's fascist, it will be the Serbian Empire. When it's democratic, it will be Serbia. When it's neutral, it's also Serbia. When it's communist, it's the Socialist Republic of Serbia. Next up is Shaanxi. When it's fascist, it will be the Shaanxi Yan state. When it's democratic, it will be the Shaanxi Republic. When it's neutral, it's Shaanxi. And when it's communist, it's the Shaanxi Soviet Republic. Next up is Siam. When it's fascist, it will be called the Siamese Empire. When it's democratic, it will be the Republic of Thailand. When it's neutral, it will be Siam. And when it's communist, it will be the Thai People's Republic. Next up is Sidamo. When it's fascist, it will be called the Sidama Realm. When it's democratic, it will be called the Sidamo Republic. When it's neutral, it's going to be called the Kingdom of Sidamo. And when it's communist, it will be called the Southern Nation Nationalities and People's Socialist Union, which is so long yet so vague. I don't know why they chose that one. Next up is Sierra Leone. When it's fascist, it will be called the Sierra Leone Junta. When democratic, it will be called Sierra Leone. When it's neutral, it will be called the Kingdom of Sierra Leone. When communist, it will be called the Democratic People's Republic of Sierra Leone. Next up is Silesia. When it's fascist, it will be the Silesian state. When it's democratic, it will be Silesia. When neutral, it will be the Duchy of Silesia. And when communist, it will be the Silesian People's Republic. Next up is Xinjiang. When fascist, it will be dictatorial Xinjiang. When democratic, it will be Xinjiang Independent Republic. When neutral, it will be the state of Xinjiang. And when communist, it will be Xinjiang. Next up is Slovakia. When fascist, it's just Slovakia. When democratic, it will be the Slovak Republic. When neutral, it will be the Free State of Slovakia. When communist, it will be the Slovak Socialist Republic. Next up is Slovenia. When fascist, it will be Phalangist Slovenia. When democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Slovenia. When neutral, it's going to be Slovenia. When communist, it's going to be the Democratic People's Republic of Slovenia. Next up is the Solomon Islands. Fascist is just going to be Solomon's Empire. Democratic is going to be Solomon Islands. Neutral is going to be Solomon Islands. Communist is going to be Solomon's Communes. So I look at these, but what this was the Solomon guy like a real guy? Can someone in the comments explain? I'm too lazy to search it up. Who's Solomon? Who is this guy? Anyways, next up is Somalia. So when fascist, it will be called the Ajuran Empire. When democratic, it will be called Somalia. When neutral, it will be the Somalia Sultanate. And when communist, it will be called the Somali Democratic Republic. Next up is South Africa. When fascist, it will be Nationalist South Africa. When democratic, it will just be South Africa. When it's neutral, it will be Unitary South Africa. And when communist, it will be the Cape Commune. Next up is the Soviet Union. When fascist, it will be the Russian Empire. When democratic, it's the Russian Federation. When neutral, it's just Russia. And when communist, it will be the Soviet Union. Next up is Spain. When fascist, it's going to be Nationalist Spain. When democratic, it's just Spain. When neutral, it will be the Spanish Empire. And when communist, it will be Republican Spain. Next up is Sri Lanka. When fascist, it will be Nationalist Ceylon. When democratic, it will be the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. When neutral, it will be Sri Lanka. When communist, it will be Tamil Sinhalese Socialist Federation. Next up is Sudan. When it's fascist, it will be called Nubia. When democratic, it will be the Republic of Sudan. When neutral, it's just Sudan. When communist, it will be called the Commune of the Sudan. Next up is Suriname. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Suriname Unitary State. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Suriname. And when it's neutral, it's Suriname. When it's communist, it's going to be called the Suriname Democratic Republic. Next up is Sweden. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Sverige, I guess? I don't know. Next up is democratic, it's going to be called Sweden. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Sweden. When it's communist, it's going to be Folkhemmet, I guess. Next up is Switzerland. When it's fascist, it will be Imperial Helvetia. When democratic, it will be Switzerland. When neutral, it will be the Helvetic Junta. And when communist, it will be the United Cantons. Next up is Syria. When fascist, it will be the Syrian National State. When democratic, it's just Syria. When neutral, it's the Kingdom of Syria. When communist, it will be the Socialist State of Syria. Next up is Tahiti. When fascist, it will be called the Tahitian National Assembly. When democratic, it's French Polynesia. When neutral, it's just Tahiti. And when it's communist, it will be called the Tahitian Commune. Next is Tajikistan. When it's fascist, it will be the Bekstvo of Matcha. When it's democratic, it will be the Republic of Tajikistan. When it's neutral, it will just be Tajikistan. When it's communist, it will be called the Tajik Soviet Republic. Next up is Tanatuva. When it's fascist, it'll be called the Tuvan Nationalist Republic. When it's democratic, it'll be called the Tuva Independent Republic. When it's neutral, it'll be Tanu Uriankai. And when it's communist, it'll be Tanutuva. Next up is Tanzania. When it's fascist, it'll be Nationalist Tanzanian State. When it's democratic, it'll be the Republic of Tanzania. When it's neutral, it's just Tanzania. And when it's communist, it'll be Tanzanian Socialist Union. Next is Tatarstan. When it's fascist, it'll be the New Kazani Khanate. Democratic, it'll be Tatarstan. When it's neutral, it'll be the Tatar Military Union. And when it's communist, it'll be the Tatar Workers' Republic. Next up is Taimeria or Taimeria, I don't know. When it's fascist, it'll be called the North Siberian Empire. When it's democratic, it'll be called Taimeria. When neutral, it'll be the Dolgano Nenets Migratory State. When communist, it'll be the Taimyr People's Republic. Next up is Tibet. When fascist, it'll be the Tibetan Empire. When democratic, it'll be the Republic of Tibet. When neutral, it'll be Tibet. When communist, it'll be the Monastic Commune of Tibet. Next up is Tigray. When it's fascist, it'll be called the Aksumite Kingdom. When it's democratic, it'll be the Tigrinian Republic. When neutral, it'll just be Tigray. And when communist, it'll be the Tigrinian People's Revolutionary Popular State. Next up is Togo. When fascist, it'll be Nationalist Togo. When it's democratic, it's the Togolese Republic. When it's neutral, it's Togo. And when it's communist, it'll be the Togolese Commune. Next up is Transylvania. When it's fascist, it'll be called Legionary Transylvania. When it's democratic, it'll just Transylvania. When it's neutral, it's the Principality of Transylvania. When it's communist, it's the Carpathian Socialist Union. Next up is Trinidad and Tobago, or Tobago, I don't know. When it's fascist, it's going to be the Empire of Kairi, or Syri, I don't know. When it's democratic, it'll be the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. When it's neutral, it'll be Trinidad and Tobago. When it's communist, it'll be the Amerindian People's Republic. Next up is Tunisia. When it's fascist, it'll be Barbary Tunis. When it's democratic, it'll be the Republic of Tunisia. When it's neutral, it'll just be called Tunisia. When it's communist, it'll be called the Communist State of Tunisia. Next up is Turkey. When it's fascist, it'll be called the Turkish Empire. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Turkey. When neutral, it's just Turkey. And when communist, it's the Turkish Socialist Republic. Next up is Turkmenistan. When it's fascist, it's called the Neo-Seljuk Empire. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Turkmenistan. When it's neutral, it's just Turkmenistan. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Turkestan Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic. Next up is Tuscany. When fascist, it will be the Etrurian Social Republic. When democratic, it's going to be the Confederated States of Tuscany. When neutral, it will be the Grand Duchy of Tuscany. And when communist, it will be the People's Republic of Tuscany. Next up is the Two Sicilies. When fascist, it's going to be the Parthenopean Republic. When it's democratic, it will be the Neapolitanian Sicilian Republic. When neutral, it's the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies. When communist, it's going to be the People's Republic of Mezzogiorno. Very Italian. Next up is Udmurtia. When it's fascist, it'll be called the Spiritual State of Udmurtvos. When it's democratic, it'll be called Udmurtia. When it's neutral, it'll be called the South Permic State. And when communist, it'll be the Udmurt Commune. Next up is Uganda. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Nationalist Uganda. When democratic, it's just Uganda. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Uganda. And when it's communist, it's going to be called the Ugandan People's Republic. Next up is Ukraine. When it's fascist, it's just Ukraine. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Ukraine. Neutral, just Ukraine. Communist is the Ukrainian Socialist Republic. Next up is the Unaligned States of America. When it's fascist, it's the Unaligned States of America. When it's democratic, it's the Unaligned States of America. When it's neutral, it's the Unaligned States of America. And communist, say it with me now, it's the Unaligned States of America. Next up is the United Arab Emirates. When fascist, it's just the Arab Emirates. I guess they're not united anymore. When it's democratic, it's the Trucial States. When it's neutral, it's the United Arab Emirates. And when it's communist, it's the People's Arab Union. Next up is the United Kingdom. When fascist, it's going to be called the British Empire. When democratic, it's the United Kingdom. When neutral, it's Great Britain. When communist, it's going to be the Union of Britain. Next up is the United States. When fascist, it's going to be called the Free American Empire. When democratic, it's the United States. When neutral, it's America. And when communist, it's going to be the Communist States of America. Next up is Upper Volta. When fascist, it's going to be called the Authority of Upper Volta. When democratic, it's going to be the Burkina Faso. When neutral, it'll be Upper Volta. And when communist, it'll be Upper Volta Socialist Republic. Next up is Uruguay, or Uruguay, I don't know. When it's fascist, it'll be New Constitutional Uruguay. When it's democratic, it'll be called Uruguay. When neutral, it'll be Cisplatina. And when communist, it'll be the Socialist Republic of Uruguay. Next up is Uzbekistan. When fascist, it's going to be called the Uzbek Khanate. When democratic, it'll be the Republic of Uzbekistan. When neutral, it's just Uzbekistan. And when communist, it'll be called the Uzbek Soviet Socialist Republic. Next up is Venezuela. When fascist, it was just Venezuela. When democratic, it's the Federal Republic of Venezuela. When neutral, it's going to be Bolivarian Venezuela. When communist, it's going to be Leftist International Venezuela. Next up is Vietnam. When it's fascist, it's the Empire of Vietnam. When democratic, it's the Republic of Vietnam. When it's neutral, it's also the Republic of Vietnam. And when it's communist, it's the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. Next up is Vladivostok. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Far Eastern Russo-Japanese State. It's kind of funny how they mention 2 other country names in their own country. When it's democratic, it's going to be called Vladivostok Independent Republic. When it's neutral, it's going to be called the Vladivostok Interventionalist State. When it's communist, it's going to be called the Vladivostok Syndicalist Collective. Next up is Vojvodina. I think that's how you pronounce it. When it's fascist, it's going to be called the Sirmian Empire. When it's democratic, it's going to be the Republic of Vojvodina. When it's neutral, it's just Vojvodina. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Socialist Province of Vojvodina. Next up is Volga, Germany. When fascist, it's the Volga German Reich. When it's democratic, it's the Republic of Volga, Germany. When it's neutral, it's the Volga German State. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Volga German Workers' Union. Next up is Wales. When fascist, it's going to be called Cambria. When democratic, it's going to be Wales. When neutral, it's going to be the Principality of Wales. And when communist, it's going to be the Welsh People's Republic. Next up is West Germany. When fascist, it's going to be called the Fourth Reich. When democratic, it's the Federal Republic of Germany. When neutral, it's going to be called Bayern Hanover. And when communist, it's going to be the Socialist Republic of Germany. I think I saw like this comment somewhere, but it's kind of funny how the West German fascist name is just the Fourth Reich. And they were just going to oh, let's try this again. I saw that comment somewhere. I'll try to find it, but it's kind of funny. Next up is Westphalia. When fascist, it'll be called Gross Hanover. When it's democratic, it's the Free State of Hanover. When it's neutral, it's the Kingdom of Westphalia. And when it's communist, it's the People's Republic of Lower Saxony. Next up is Württemberg. When it's fascist, it's going to be called Gross Württemberg. When it's democratic, it's the Free State of Württemberg. When it's neutral, it'll be called the Kingdom of Württemberg. And when it's communist, it will be called the People's Republic of Württemberg. Next up is Shibe Sanma. When fascist, it will be the Shibe Sanma Free State. When democratic, it will be the Hui Republic. When neutral, it will be Shibe Sanma. And when communist, it will be the People's Republic of Ma. Next up is the Yamalian Republic. When fascist, it will be the Pan Nenet Unitary State. When democratic, it's the Yamalian Republic. When neutral, it will be the Yamalo-Nenetian Migratory State. And when communist, it will be Yamalo-Nenet Soviet. Next up is Yemen. When fascist, it will be the Federation of South Arabia. When democratic, it's the Yemen Arab Republic. When it's neutral, it's Yemen. And when it's communist, it's the People's Republic of Yemen. Next up is Yugoslavia. When fascist, it will be called Radikalna Yugoslavia. When democratic, it's going to be called the Yugoslavian Confederation. When neutral, it's just Yugoslavia. And when communist, it's going to be SFR Yugoslavia. Next up is Yunnan. When fascist, it'll be called the Yunnan Free Empire. When it's democratic, it'll be the Yunnan Independent Republic. When it's neutral, it's just Yunnan. And when it's communist, it's going to be the Soviet Republic of Yunnan. Next up is Zaire. I think that's how you pronounce it. When it's fascist, it'll be the Central African Empire. That's pretty cool. When it's democratic, it'll be the Republic of the East Congo. And neutral will just be Zaire. When it's communist, it'll be the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Next up is Zambia. When fascist, it'll be called the State of Zambia. When democratic, it's going to be called Zambia. When neutral, it's the Kingdom of Zambia. And when communist, it's going to be called the Zambian People's Republic. And last but not least, are they least? Are they not least? Are they least? Yeah, last but not least, you have Zimbabwe. When they're fascist, they'll be called Rhodesia. When democratic, it's the Republic of Zimbabwe. When neutral, it's Zimbabwe. And when communist, it's the Zimbabwean Democratic Republic. Holy shit. How did... Damn, I'm actually so tired. It's like what? What time is it? It's like low-key 4. Man, I recorded this for way too long. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I might feature my voice in more videos, maybe, if I'm not lazy, I guess. Yeah, well, I guess I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe.